and everyone.
Om Indram Mitram Matarato Divyaha Sasuparno Gurutman Ekam Sat Vipra Buhuda Vedantyaagnim Yaman Matari Shvanamahu Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. To that one divine presence, the seers assign many an honorable title, such as the friend of all beings, the waters of life, the fire of yoga, the atmosphere of divinity, the carrier of consciousness, the devourer of death, the eternal companion, and the one who shines forth the light. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Yam Brahma Varnendra Rudra Marutaha Shtanvanti Davoy Vedai Sangapada Krama Upanishadoi Gyantiyam Samagaha Dhyan Avashtita Tadgatena Manasha Pashantiyam Yogino Yashantam Navidu Sura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Our eternal salutations to that one who is the truth of life and existence, and whom the saints and seers call by various divine names. Our eternal salutations to that one whose glories are sung in the various hymns of the different religious traditions of the world, but whose infinite and undying grandeur no mortal mind can comprehend. Our eternal salutations to that one upon whom the devotees meditate in the shrine of their heart, realizing an ineffable presence in their deepest contemplations. May he prompt our minds toward the path of truth and righteousness. May she reveal herself into our souls and dispel the gloom of death, fear, doubt, and darkness. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Kharvavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu, Ma Vidvishuvahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, divine reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. And so we all gather here for the second class of our two-class visit here in this Dharma visit, I call it, 4 times a year, coming from Hawaii, where our ashram holds its daily schedule, and live streaming audience with several people from Hawaii are looking on right now, so we welcome them into our midst, and people from Europe and India and other places looking on as we continue to elucidate about Dharma. And Dharma, which is I'd say, the next level of teaching beyond just morality and its companion, immorality, that takes us only so far. Just like intellectualism takes us only so far if we're secular people, that is not given to religion. But beyond religion is spirituality, and we usually look at spirituality as something that's connected with philosophy. That is, religion and philosophy have to check each other. Religion could get too dualistic, too sentimental, and so forth, if wisdom weren't there to check it. And the same is true if wisdom becomes too dry and speculative, that philosophy that is necessary, unless religion, that is with a capital R, Swami Vivekananda used to say, unless religion, true religion, not irreligion, inspects philosophy and moistens it with devotion and so forth. So we have that sort of dichotomy, which doesn't have to be one, of religion and philosophy. In the West, usually our philosophy has been more for name and fame and argumentation, debate, and held mostly at the collegiate level. And anything outside of that is just becoming a sort of couch philosopher, as people tend to do. But philosophy, of course, has its place in India as non-duality, and that's a very high, if not the highest strain of subject running through everything, like a thread runs through a necklace, Sri Krishna says. Nobody sees it, but it holds it all together. So these various runs of the heart, you might say, or the emotions, need that guiding light of non-dual philosophy behind them. And if we can steal a few moments of your time, in your precious time in your life, for instance, summer numbers are very low here in Portland. It's always been the case. I've been coming here after I grew up here and left here. I've been coming here for 4 or 5 decades and teaching Dharma, and also giving devotional music concerts. And summers were always, even back in the 70s and 80s, very sparse with people going various places. But we like to try and steal, or have you, better yet, spend a few moments of your time entertaining these dharmic teachings, which, like Sixon, our founder of SRV, and myself, always agreed when he was in the body, that Dharma was the one thing in the world that was most worthwhile and probably able to accomplish the removal of problems, obstacles, impediments, sufferings even, because sufferings come from those problems. So holding a non-dual state of mind, as my teacher here in Swami Asheshananda in Portland, Oregon, did for us every day for some 30 or 40 years he was here, had to be witnessed by me, to be believed. Yes, not that I didn't believe already when I came to him, but again, belief has to do more with religion and a God with form. But and we chanted that this morning, salutations to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, God with form. Or if you wanted to sing that to the God with form Trinity, you would sing something like Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Eva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So the Guru, God with form, is Lord Brahma, who's assigned that title of creator. Although creation is a hard word for Vedantists to use, we think of everything more as a projection from the mind rather than a creation out of nothing. But whatever the case may be, then followed by Vishnu, who sustains everything. So we just chanted, may Brahman sustain our thinking process, sustain us and illumine our thinking process. And Shiva, who will then destroy it all, that is, dissolve it back into its essence, because nothing ever gets created and nothing ever gets destroyed. It just comes from its source, manifests itself, and goes back to its source. And that's true of everything. It's true of God without form, it's true of God with form, it's true of the soul, it's true of nature, it's even true of this flummoxing Maya that's around us that confuses us. Comes out of nowhere like green scum off of a clear lake one season and then disappears back into it. So that world of appearances changes, or changing phenomena, as we just chanted, the witness of all changing phenomena. You must take up that position of witness, and instead of being the participant. Everyone wants to participate in life, but the seers actually, after they participated, some of them even only once, like Jesus and Buddha, they'll retire from the scene and just work from the outside. They won't get involved in embodiment anymore. Those are called Videha Muktis. And of course, Jivan Muktis will come back many times to help. So they probably get the best of human compliments. But even Vivekananda was here for just 38 years, 39 years of his life. And he said, at the end of his life, he said, I see this world, you see, it's hard to show them anything and have them follow. It's always been that way with this world. So I'd rather be a voice without a form, he says. So I'll try, get outside of the whole picture, and like Buddha, getting outside of the river of time and looking at everything from an inner position. So, most people don't even believe in an inner life, or as we were just reading from the Gospel of Ramakrishna before we started the class, what do you think of the afterlife? And the man who was a Hindu in the 1800s said, what do you mean afterlife? What is that? See, well, I had a young boy sitting right here in this room a couple days ago, and his question was, I'm afraid. And I said, why? He said, afraid of the afterlife. And I said, you could be afraid of death, but if you have an afterlife, that's actually a good thing, isn't it? At least for most people. Reincarnation, if they believed it, would be, oh boy, teacher told me I'm birthless and deathless. I can come back as many times as I want. But coming back into the worlds of name and form and time and space based in cause and effect, because you were born from a cause called the sexual act and procreation, and that was born from food. And then that gave rise to the body, and then the body gave rise to the brain. And the brain is carrying all those problems from past lifetimes in it, called samskaras, or impressions, which makes you what you are. Conditionings, the Buddhists call it. And you're going to have to look into that brain, and the witness of the brain is the mind. So it's not a teaching that people usually get, again, in fundamentalist religion or religious circles, that there's a difference between brain and mind. There's definitely a difference between body and soul, and I hope people, even in dualistic circles, would realize that. Separate the wheat from the chaff, God from mammon, or as the Master was saying in the Gospel just a few minutes ago, Purusha from Prakriti, the ever all-conscious sentient soul from the insentient material energy, nature from soul. So if you're preaching, as it were, oneness, then there's a kind of a green coconut oneness that people espouse before their minds are separated from the brain. And they're thinking all is one, all is one. You hear that sometimes here in the Portland area. You see, they want to keep Portland weird. But I want to make Portland wise. And that's going to be based upon discrimination between the self and the non-self. That's the Vedantic position the very first time you come into the circle of Upanishadic studies like we're studying today. Akshi Upanishad is that you want to get Viveka, and that's why he named himself that. He could have named himself any number of names. In fact, before he left India, he was calling himself Ramakrishnananda after his teacher. But one of his brother monks wanted that name, so he said, oh, go ahead, take it. See, it's not like I'm attached to name, form, time, space. I'm a monk, I'm a wandering free soul. So he took on the name Vivekananda because when he looked at the West, where he was sent to teach, he saw that we were without that special discrimination, without that special teaching on discrimination called Viveka. We looked at that yesterday, if you remember, when we looked at Lord Vashista's pathway to the eternal moksha. It falls right about down in here. The four qualifications, sadhana chatushtaya. You have to discriminate between real and the unreal. If you don't understand that, just think of the wheat and the chaff. You have to get thee behind me, what's incidental and what's insubstantial, what's non-essential, what's bothering you all the time, and what's getting in the way of you seeing the truth, like having wool over your eyes, we said yesterday. And once you make that definitive move, you have a spiritual path, and the Buddhists and the Vedantists would stand up and declare, you can't have a spiritual life without Viveka. It's not possible. You're still mixing things in with your practice, in with your life, in with your meditations, because you haven't made that definitive conclusion about it. oh, I see, the God and the world are two different things. Soul and nature are two different things. There's a relationship between them. We chanted that this morning in class. Adihi sa sam yoga, or at meditation. Adihi sa sam yoga namita hetu. See, the cause, hetu, of something. Paras trikala kala pidristaha. The witness of three phases of time. And then it talks about the relationship between matter and spirit, and the partless divine entity who looks on. Partless, so nature parts things, you see, but the soul can never be parted. Consciousness can never be divided. God is one in that case means it's homogeneous, not one numerical. That's going to limit it, but it's homogeneous by nature. So if you see that, you say, you separate from the wheat and the chaff, and you may have to go on doing that in your everyday life, but the philosophical conclusion that you make is the one you need before you can do that effectively in your everyday life. You have to go around this world as if it were a dream. And people are dreaming around you. Your children are dreaming, your ancestors are dreaming. It's all one mass collective mental dream. And the whole point of it is to wake up. So if you see God face to face, you wake up from it. So whatever is in the way of that, you have to wake up from. So that's called waking up from the problem of avarana and vikshepa shakti. Right? The greens come over the lake, the wool over the eyes. So in the Upanishads, again, which we're studying through these years, they state that you must look for God as one would look for oil in sesame seeds, or one would look in for patina in copper. You've seen the green stuff that comes out of a penny if you lay it down near the water faucet for a while in the bathroom or something. This green stuff all of a sudden comes out. You never knew it was there. Or you must look for God as if it's golden rivers. See, you're looking for this essence of a thing. You're panning for it. So discrimination would be that kind of panning, because who would have ever known that there would be so much nutritious oil in the sesame seed by looking at one. So that's how subtle Brahman is, and that's how detailed your search is going to have to be, and that's how much scrutiny you're going to have to call forth in order to look at something. And if you scrutinize it too closely, it tends to suck you in. You see, like you scrutinize objects. What's the closest look at objects? We know that objects are not real. That's the Buddhist and Vedantic conclusion. They made the conclusion already. Science came along many centuries, millennia later, and then said, oh, I see, I've splintered it now, and I can take it apart to particles, and those particles are changing at a billionth of a second. So there's really nothing there in an object. Nothing whatsoever there, substantial. But they didn't make the right conclusion and say, oh, see, this is all made on, this is all shifting sand, like Jesus tried to tell. And so if it's that way, then why didn't I give it up? So that's the result of viveka. That's the result of seeing God in everything. See, finding the mother hidden in all things, like in these words I'm telling you. Whereas mother's most precious and hidden form is in the sense in these words that I'm speaking, the intelligence that speaks them. She's the intelligence in everything. So when Buddha saw that, he named himself that. Buddhi means intelligence. So there's a great mother force hidden in everything, but there's also a great force that obscures it. And that's where we came to this chart yesterday, if you remember. We were studying I think slokas 15 through 19 of the Akshi Upanishad. Now, last night at our worship, because worship is another thing that helps you remove the coverings We don't just get together and have a worship just for the sake of worship. You see, oh, we feel good now or something, or some tears came to my eyes or something. If you sit for puja, like I was telling one person last night, in India I sat for puja all day before. The puja started at sunrise and stopped at sunset, you see. And so you were there for the whole thing. Got a little prasad food in the meantime. But if you sit for puja and it's for a long time, then everything slows down. You see, everything's going fast for you because your mind is going fast. If you slow the mind down, everything slows down. It's a direct proof of the fact that the mind dictates everything. The mind gave birth to these worlds. God did not create these worlds. That's the mind you're talking about. Don't assign God, poor God and poor devil, you see, with these problems that your mind has created en masse, with 7 billion people on one level, and then trillions of ancestors and hundreds and thousands of gods and goddesses in the kingdoms within you and so forth. Don't pin that on God. That's the human mind at a cosmic, collective, and individual level that's foisted all this dream on you. And you're walking around in it saying, it's real, and never waking up for hundreds and thousands of lifetimes. So, Holy Mother used to say, don't blame God for all the negative things that happen to you. And don't praise God either. You dictate what happens to you, good and bad. And then she'd followed up with a teaching of how to get beyond good and bad. See, that's why I said at the beginning of class, morality is not going to do it for us. You're going to have spirituality, something that clears the mind, something that brings the oil out from the sesame seed, something that allows you to see the emptiness of objects and make a conclusion that they're empty, shunyata, and I'm not going to covet them anymore. I'm not going to possess them anymore. And if I use them, I'll use them very carefully in a detached way. You know, I'll move amongst the world of objects, but not think myself to be an object, because if you're a body, you're an object. So I'm not the body is the first teaching you get. But it can't stop there, you see, in the West. Oh, you're not the physical body, and some people say, okay, I'll accept that. But you have 3 bodies. You have a mind, mental body, and dream tonight, and you have a third body that's formless called deep sleep. And we looked at that in the Akshi Upanishad. These are the 7 stages of yoga. Samkriti went to the sun god. Now, where is the sun god? Not up, it's inside. There are billions of suns up there, but there's one God who projected all these suns out here. That God is in you. You created the universe again. So you have to contact that being that is responsible for shining the light on everything. I chanted that just beginning of class. All these names they give to the Lord. The eternal companion, the fire of yoga, the devourer of death, because if you know him, death is revealed as an illusion. Carrier of consciousness, and the one who shines forth the light. So Sankriti in his meditation says, I need some clarification here. I'm going to the sun god. That's what I walked up the stairs from meditation this morning and got to the top of the stairs. This huge sunbeam hit me in the face from the side window. And I just turned and I went, Om Namo Surya Narayan. So automatically I saluted the sun. And that's the outer sun we're saluting. That's an insentient sun. That has no power in it whatsoever of consciousness. But it came from consciousness. So it's a symbol of the inner light. See, all of this outer light, candles, light bulbs, street lamps, is all a symbol for the inner light. But you're getting caught in the externals. And so you don't know about this inner light. It becomes veiled to you, you see. Avarana Shakti is working. That means that's the veiling power. And then Vikshepa Shakti comes along and makes it worse by distorting it. See? The clouds go over the sun and you go, oh, the sun doesn't exist. And that's probably a belief here in Portland. Yeah. A great orb came out of the sky one day, and the Portlanders looked up and said, what's that? Because they're hidden from the sun so long. So this fog or this cloud comes over the sun, and then all of a sudden it doesn't exist for you anymore. That's distorting power. Like, looking at yourself in a clear mountain lake, but then touching the water, and there's your reflector there gets distorted, and you look distorted. So this realm of appearances is what the yogi wants to penetrate through, and that's the same as saying, this I, if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. So that's what Samkriti, going to the sun god inside, asking the sun god, give me this great teaching. Do you remember the first thing the sun god said to him? I repeated it yesterday. All is one, unborn, tranquil, endless, certain, and immutable. Look at reality like that. Isn't it the beautiful statement of truth? And after he gives that truth, he tells you the teaching, how to apply it. Here's the truth, my son. Now, enact it. You see, you just can't go to a teacher and say, all is one, unborn, acreate, tranquil. Okay, I heard you, and walk away. What did he say after that? He said, now see reality like that. And so if you go outside and everything isn't one, if you go to the hospital and everything isn't unborn, if you go amongst the people and everything isn't tranquil, then you're not seeing reality, right? You're seeing relativity. And so you're going to have to detach from that, and that's the next step you get. From discrimination, you enact your detachment. Viveka Vairagya. So in that way then, once you know the difference between the wheat and the chaff, once you know the difference between the real and the unreal, and once you know the difference between the essential and non-essential, you take to the one and give up the other. And there's no compromise there. And that's the next step required of you to lead an actual spiritual life. Spiritual life isn't dancing and singing, it's not getting visions, it's not pursuing occult powers, it's not shifting into different positions of your body like Hatha Yoga, it's not breathing. Those are, at best, just mere enactments you're doing to prepare yourself for something grand. Spiritual life is all about seeing the difference between God and the world, and then giving up the world, just like the great souls have done. You think you can't do it simply because you're not a great soul, or simply because you're not a seer or a sage, or an avatut, or an ishvarakoti, or a vibhuti, or an avatar. It's not that you can't do it because you're not those things. That makes it all the more important for you to do that, because that's how they started the path. Birds have nests, foxes have holes. Man has no place to lay his head here. You think that's just a parable? That's the realization of Jesus looking at everything after he came out of the wilderness for 12 days and 12 nights and saying, it's just all shifting sands. I forgot that. See, probably in his case he didn't forget it, but he went into the wilderness to make damn sure that that was the case before he came out and told the people, I am the light of the worlds, I and my Father are one, because that's the non-dual truth. And who's going to believe him? They're going to call him a fool. Nobody liked Jesus. The Sadducees didn't like him, the Jews didn't like him, the Pharisees didn't like him, the Romans certainly didn't like him, and his own 12 apostles didn't really love him in the end. So you think he's coming back again for more mistreatment? He gave his message once, just like Buddha gave his message once, and you were there, or you heard about him being there, and you should have followed immediately. And here's how to follow. Get yourself some discrimination between what's real and what's not real, and quit wasting time. If you waste time, then it's called reincarnation. You build up karma and you get reincarnation. I mean, this is a good indication of the American choice. That's reincarnation, right? Everyone's craning their neck. All of a sudden, everyone got really interested in my class. So there's Vishnu, as it were, or, it's saying, here's the American choice, right? Quit procrastinating. See? And so, well, which would you choose? One person at the retreat I showed this a week ago, and he said, I'll choose the cow. But these eat those. That's why they end up like that, because they are not treating the animals right. So, and that's one of those small things. It's not, if you're vegetarian or not, the Vedantist doesn't really care that much. It's how sensitive you are, and you can be a Jain and be completely nonviolent and not even want to step on an ant and so forth, or you can be the vilest of creatures, and just be insensitive. The karma that comes from that is due to your actions, not due to God or devil, not due to God judging you or devil on your tail. See? It's all you. So you began it, you can stop it. So if you want to quit procrastinating at the highest level of procrastination, because it happens in works too, then you get to the 4 jewels, 4 treasures and the 6 jewels. And then when you see that reality is one, unborn, tranquil, endless, certain, immutable, then you make the conclusion. Vedanta, Siddhanta, Nirukti Resha, Brahmaiva Jivaham Sakalam Jagadcha. Brahman is all this: time, space, living beings in the world. And living in constant recognition of that fact is what's called enlightenment, says Shankara in the Vivekachudamani. So he's in possession of the third eye. He was in possession of the wisdom eye when he was 8. Remembered all his past lifetimes and all the wisdom of the scriptures. So you have this little boy here sitting teaching graybeards. See, India has seen many Jesuses. So an enlightened soul is one who has torn off the covering. There's some beautiful passages in the Upanishads where it says, man will never see God until he can wrap up the sky. See, just wrap it up in a package. So you look up into the sky and you see the sun at the time of your passing, and you say, you're about to leave the body, and thankfully you're not in a hospital, and you're about to give up the body, and you look at the sun, who is a reflection of the sun god to you, and you say, oh Lord, take away the sun now. He's veiling your true light. So he's not a worshiper of the physical sun, he's a worshiper of the cause of all the suns, S-U-N-S. And so he wants it taken away. That's been deluding me my whole lifetime. I've been looking at an imitation light. So a man cannot get free until he wraps up the sky like a package. So Vivekananda, hearing that teaching in the Upanishads, sang this. Hamsa hamsaya vidmahe paramahamsaya dhimohi tano hamsaha prachodayat Shri Rama Krishnaya Namaha. Kshina smadina sakaruna jal panti mudajana nastikyantvi dantu aha dehatma vadatura praptaha shmaviragatabaya abhayam pratitam yada Ashtikyanti dantu chinumana Rama Krishna dasavayam. we will crush the stars to atoms. It's pretty funny, isn't it? This beautiful melody, and all of a sudden, we will crush the stars to atoms. We will unhinge the universe. Don't you know who we are? We are the children of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, we are a few of the 5 million people who are discovering Sri Ramakrishna as the avatar of the age. So what does a person like that do? He sees through the appearance of things and wraps up the sky and tells it to go away. See? And what is science doing? Science is the American religion, by the way, because in the Supreme Court they made the decision some decades ago. The theologians wanted their doctrine taught, and the scientists wanted their doctrine taught, and the court judges decided on science. So now science is our religion. So what do they do with the sky? Do they wrap it up and throw it away, get it out of, get thee behind me? No. They believe in it in its entirety on the physical level only. Now in India you have 5 different kinds of ether. And ether isn't a word that's really going to explain this to you. You'd have to use a Sanskrit word, akasha, or loka, or Shaivism, spandas, or any other of a set of words that you could choose. But akasha means an atmosphere. And so there are 5 of those. See, the physical is the outer. So, you know, if you had a circle and the outer akasha is physical, called burloka, and then the inner akasha is prana, energy, and then that's mind, and then intellect, and finally joy or ananda, the ego. See? Those are 5 different kinds of akashas. Bhutakasha, Pranakasha, Chidakasha, Gyanakasha, and Chiddakasha, the space of consciousness. See? So it'd be like Christ's description of the kingdom of heaven within you. See? You have 3 different worlds basically, and you have 3 bodies that go with them. And you have to recognize that, because that's part of your discrimination process. See? So you're going to have to filter through this ideation of science and also the 7-day creation theory of theology. Why the 2 were arguing, and one had to get selected, but the Vedanta was going, I don't want either of those. Because I'm the witness of those things. First of all, God didn't create. And second of all, science is talking about a linear view of time, which goes back 4 billion years, but there's no beginning and middle and end to anything. My ancestors are inside me, not back in the simian den. See? They're trying to convince us that if we want to see our relatives, we go to the zoo. But if the spiritual aspirant wants to see his relatives, he goes inside where they came from, where you came from. You come from inside out, and then you return inside. Everything in the world is showing you that. So seeds, you must look for seeds. Not just seeds for forests, but where did the idea of forest come from? It came from a word, forest. And so you look to the origin of the word forest, and you'll find it's in your mind, and this is the way you trace everything back to its origin. Its true origin, not this assumed origin on one level of things, which limits you and robs you of your viveka vairagya. It robs you of your right to say no to the world, say no to the ancestors, say no to rebirth, and say yes to Mother Wisdom. Because that Mother Wisdom has been informing souls since the beginningless beginning. Which is why he's sitting there, you see, enwrapped in the mother. Please, everyone, broadcast the truth far and wide. Ram Prasad is lost in the mother. The one song in India. So completely given to divine mother reality, Shakti, or Mahashakti, if you will. So I take up the subject of yesterday and of the past visits in the Akshi Upanishad, because last night in puja you saw we were doing the Shiva puja and the offering Rudraksha beads and then the flowers and dupam and deepam, light and scent, and finally got down to putting the tilaka on the Shiva, covering the Shiva with dust, and then putting the tilaka, the kumkum paste in the middle, and then a piece of rice in there, and then when you put the piece of rice in the middle of that you said akshitam. So Akshi Upanishad means to see, that's the third eye. So this is the gift of Samkriti after he visited the sun god, that he came back and wrote down his experience as the Akshi Upanishad. How to truly see. He gives the first sloka, and then we took the next 15 slokas, and then we're on the way to finishing up 16 through 19. Hopefully we'll do that today. So I connect us back to that with this 4 treasures and 6 jewels, that we went through this already. And we reached the end and we saw that we needed the 4 sentinels, and we needed this Atma Tripti, the 3 fruits of truth. And that's why I brought this, so that we could finish up both this chart and this other chart that we started into and made it halfway through. Because yesterday we were talking about the path of vibration. Right? If you want to just completely take away all mention of God, religion, and people are all sensitive about that, then and you want to get to the sciences and people who like their teachings straightforward, then you'll talk to them about vibration, because that's been proven by science. So then the American and the European will go, okay, I'll accept that. But to us, it's where the vibration emanates from, and so that's the science of vritti. Yoga calls it the science of vritti. Your mind vibrates. If your mind vibrates, then this appears. If it doesn't vibrate, this disappears. And if you want direct proof of that, think of your deep sleep state last night when everything went away. Where did you go? Where did you, who you assigned a name and a form to, where did that go, and where did it leave you? You can't remember. You had neither waking nor dreaming. You had no children, you had no money, and you had no body, and you had no ego. There was no effect, but a cause brought you back. So in your deep sleep state, you're formless. And that's the M of the word Om. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. When the Word was God, that's just the position before the Word disappears back into and becomes one with the Father. That's Shiva's business. He'll dissolve that, see. So when we were looking at this chart, we saw Lord Shiva teaching about this science of vrittis. If the mind vibrates, everything vibrates. If it doesn't, then everything disappears. So how much can I believe in a world that is not constant, see, that's constantly changing under the effects of Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti, distorting power and covering power? Why doesn't it stay the same? Why does it always confuse? Why does it always lead with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom, as Vivekananda said in one of his songs? So therefore I give it up. And I live in the light of understanding, pure conscious awareness, and I won't accept any compromises, any usurpers to the throne of my own self. See? I'm a Vedantist, see. I scarcely see anything else in existence except myself. Vivekananda said that, and that's also what Buddha believed. He didn't really like the word self. Actually, he didn't mind it, but the Buddhist fathers came after him began to take exception to it. But Lord Buddha made a distinction, viveka, between the selves. He said, who is the self? Who is the father of the self? The great self is the father of the smaller self. That's in the Dhammapada. So he didn't mind using the word. The smaller self's the ego, and the great self is Buddha nature, or Tathagata, or Pragyaparam. People accuse Lord Buddha of not believing in God. It wasn't a matter of belief and non-belief. It was a matter of seeing the truth and being very careful as to what you named it or assigned it. So one of his disciples asks him, you were talking about reality and relativity, and you seem to say that God didn't exist. And then Buddha said, but did I actually say God doesn't exist? And his young aspirant said, oh, then God does exist. And Buddha said, did I say God exists? So he's completely non-committal. You'll find out what God is if you do the practice. No one can tell you or convince you otherwise. You have to do the practice. And reveal the self, reveal the thing in itself for yourself. So to do that, you're going to have to crush the stars to atom and unhinge the universe. You're going to have to wrap up the sky and the outer ether, and put it behind you and get to the next ether where your ancestors are. Wrap that up, put it behind you, get to the next ether where the collective consciousness dwells, the gods and goddesses dwell. Wrap that ether up, put it behind you, get to where the great seers dwell, in the intellect, in the intelligence. Wrap that up, put it behind you, and get to your own consciousness. If you want to put it another way, you take these 5 elements out here and you dissolve them into the 5 senses. So earth goes with smell, water goes with taste, fire goes with sight, air goes with touch, and ether, this akasha we're talking about, goes with hearing, doesn't it? That's called Yoga 101. Asana and Hatha Yoga isn't even 101. Something that you didn't really ever need that much. Well, if you really want yoga 101, it's connect the senses to the elements. Then you'll know how the elements were formed out of the senses. And then those 10, you dissolve those back into dream tonight. Because all the waking state comes out of dream, and then at night it goes back into dream. And dreaming is the kingdoms of heaven. Probably nobody told us that. See? When Christ was meditating in the Garden of Gethsemane with his devotees, he was talking about the Word, and he was talking about everything being within you and so forth. Then where would the kingdoms of heaven be if not in your own mind? They're certainly not up, and they're not back. So you can't believe theology, and you can't believe science. You can only believe them as far as they apply. But if you want to find the source of origins, then you do this connection of all that's exterior to all that's interior. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnamadachite. I take the outside, which seems infinite, and which is really finite, and I connect it back to the inside, which is infinite. And then when I see the finite going into the infinite and resting there, then I know it's all one indivisible state, that my mind turned it into 2, waking and dreaming. It's always has been and ever will be just one. One is also unborn, and it's tranquil, it's endless, it's certain, and it's immutable. What other words could the sun god come up with for Samkriti to clarify the picture? Because Maya tends to cover and distort, you see. For everyone. The dark night of the soul was Maya getting into Jesus' mind. So you have to need some clarification here behind the curtain of nescience. There's a big curtain of nescience here between you. One portion of it veils you from your ancestors who never died. They just went back to their subtle form. Now you're talking about, oh, I think I believe in heaven, or I think I believe in the ancestors. But actually that's part of your own being. You can go there, and you do go there every time you dream. I talk to my father at least twice a year. And in my dream with him, the most marvelous thing about that dream is that I realize he never died. That I'm still right there with him. And those dreams are as real as this to me, because I've clarified my consciousness. Because I've done discrimination. Because I've separated the wheat from the chaff. and therefore I've made a conclusion. So in that conclusion I've lived for 30 or 40 years. It's not like being on the fence, you see, and then wondering which side is better. That's what people do philosophically, religiously, probably relationship-wise, and every other thing is on the fence. They're always on the fence, and you know what the choice ends up to be when you stay on the fence. See, take your pick. So you need to get off the fence. And if you get off on the wrong side, good, because you'll find that out real quick. It's better than staying on the fence to make a wrong choice. Because you'll realize, oh, I should have gotten on the other side, so you'll go back to the right choice. And then you've started your path. See? But the whole point of this is that you need to make a conclusion about things. Am I nature, or am I God? Am I sentient, or am I insentient? Am I the Atman, or am I the body-mind mechanism? Am I here to enjoy pleasure and suffer pain, or am I here to realize the truth? You can think of a host of questions that people are on the fence about. But every time you meet an enlightened soul, like Swami Ranganathananda or Sri Krishna or Dalai Lama, they've made this conclusion long ago. 14 lifetimes ago, Dalai Lama made it. That's why he's been Dalai Lama for 14 lifetimes. That's why they can find him again when he takes on a body, you see. Oh, here I am. Not lost amongst millions of ancestors with no special characteristics attached to that soul except bondage and misery and suffering and darkness and ignorance and repetition, mundanity, living a life, a grey study of life, Vivekananda said. You can see the earmarks of souls like that. They shine like the sun. See? And Surya knows that because he is the sun god. So his children come from him. He teaches them no more birth in the womb of matter for you, only emanation from me. So you're not going to be born in matter anymore. You're going to emanate from me and take on a body of matter and give it up and do that as much as you want without any bondage and karma attesting to you. See? Until, like Jesus and Buddha and others, you won't be born again. See? You'll just stay at one-ment. You see, the hailstone fell in the ocean, that's all she wrote. I won't form a body again. How can we say this? Because it's in the scriptures. Oh, architect of rebirth and all the worlds, I have finally seen you. Now that I've seen you, I will not build homes anymore. I will not build homes of clay. I will not build homes of stone. I will not build homes of flesh and bone. I will not build homes of wise conception. So, architect of Maya, I have seen you. That's what Buddha said in the Dhammapada. They wrote it down, the Arhats. Wow, that was a great saying. So he's not coming back again. The real truth is that even if he